Hello and good morning, everyone. Again, this is Dean Rocky Duhunko, now delivering Module 2 of Forest Laws and Regulations. So for Module 2, we will concentrate on provisions of the Constitution that are related to the subject of forestry. Also, we will provide an overview of forestry-related laws that we will take up this semester. But for the focus of this module 2, we will mainly discuss the provisions of the Constitution. Bakit? Because the Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. Okay? So this is actually the law, or this is the rule which serves as the basis for all other laws in the Philippines. Kaya dito tayo dapat magsimula. As the fundamental law of the land or the highest law of the land, hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng batas na sasalungat sa Constitution. Dapat Constitution ang masusunod. If there is a conflict between the Constitution and a law that Congress has enacted, the Constitution will prevail. Kaya talagang dito tayo dapat magsimula. Alright? Again, just a reminder, this video lecture is just supplemental to the PDFs that you will receive for your subject. Basahin siyang mabuti because the quiz questions can come from the PDF or this video lecture. Alright? So aralin itong mabuti, pwedeng ulitin if you want, if that will help you understand the subject. Okay? Alright. So, for the Constitution, the prevailing Constitution now is, or the Constitution that is in effect right now is the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Minsan may narinig akong news article, no? Sabi ng mga kabataan ngayon, Din, yun bang 1987 Philippine Constitution? In effect pa rin? Medyo matagal na yan, no? Yes, it is still in effect. Until mapalitan ang provisions of the Constitution, it will remain valid and effective. So right now, the Constitution that we have is still the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Okay? And the Constitution starts with the preamble. What is the preamble? It is from the Latin term preambulare, which means walking before. The preamble precedes the Constitution. Actually, pag sinabi nating preamble, hindi naman siya source ng any right. No? It is not actually essential. But what is the function of a preamble? It sets down the origin and purposes of the Constitution. Kasi tignan niyo yung sinabi sa simula. No? By the way, the Philippine Constitution had the 1935 version, then we had the 1973 version. And as mentioned earlier, what is effective right now is the 1987 Constitution. If you look at the beginning of the Constitution, anong sabi niya? We, the sovereign Filipino people. It talks about the origin and the purposes of the Constitution. Ibig sabihin, ang origin o ang pinagsimulan or ang pinanggalingan ng Constitution ay tayo. Tayo ang sovereign Filipino people. Tayo ang gumawa nitong Constitution na ito. Right? So for the purposes of the Constitution, you can also see it in the preamble. Even if we say that the preamble is not a necessary part of the Constitution, it is still nonetheless to have one. No? So, sabi natin, the source of the Constitution's authority is we, the Filipino people. No? And we are actually imploring the aid of Almighty God. Actually, if you look at the 1935 and the 1973 versions, makita nyo divine providence. But in the 1987 Constitution, pinalitan na natin siya ng Almighty God. Why did we do this? Because the term Almighty God is more personal and more consonant with Filipino religiosity. No? Tayo ay mga relihiyosong tao. Kaya tayo ay minention na natin specifically si Almighty God, no? Ang Almighty God, ang Panginoon. What is the purpose of the Constitution? We did the Constitution in order to build a just and humane society, and to establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations. We also want to promote the common good. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng common good? When we say common good, what it means is, kumbaga it projects the idea of a social order that enables every citizen to attain his or her fullest development. No, bawat tao ay makikinabang. Okay? Conserve and develop our patrimony is the next part, and secure to ourselves and to our posterity the blessings of independence and democracy under the rule of law and a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace. Ano daw ang ibig sabihin ng rule of law? This phrase, rule of law, means that government officials have only the authority given to them. This is given to them by law and is also defined by law as well. And that the authority continues only with the consent of the people. The best statement that embodies this is ours is a rule of law and not of men. Okay? So susundin natin ang batas, hindi ang mga taong hindi ang mga taong nag kumbaga hindi yung mga tao, kundi yung batas yung susundin natin. Alright? Sa next part, okay. So we now go to the Declaration of Principles and State Policies. Oops, sorry. When we talk of Article 2, Declaration of Principles and State Policies, this means that Article 2 lists down the statement of basic ideological principles and policies that underlie the Constitution. As such, yung mga provision na nakasaad sa Article 2 of the Constitution, ito yung magiging guide para sa government sa implementation ng Constitution. For example, in the slide before you, it says in Section 13, the state recognizes the vital youth of the role in nation building. At the same time, in Section 14, the state also recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of men and women, and men. So, ibig sabihin, pag gagawa tayo ng batas or sa pagpapatupad ng batas ng ating government, the government should recognize the role of the youth and of women. At the same time, no, the government shall ensure na dapat equal ang mga babae at lalaki. Alright? So ano yung mga principles and state policies that are related to forestry or the environment? Okay. So sabi sa Section 16, the state shall protect and advance the right of the people to a balanced and healthful ecology in accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature. What does this mean? Ito ba ay isang enforceable right? Pwede ba tayong pumunta sa mga korte para i-enforce ang ating karapatan na dapat poprotektahan ng ating state ang ating karapatan para sa isang balanced and healthful ecology in accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature? The answer is yes. Section 16 actually provides for an enforceable right. So, anong ibig sabihin to? May mga ilang kaso na dineside ang Supreme Court na sinasabi nila na dapat protektahan ang karapatan ng mga tao to a balanced and healthful ecology. Example, in the case of MMDA versus residents of Manila Bay, sabi ng Supreme Court, several government agencies or agents were required to undertake the cleaning of Manila Bay dahil ang mga Manila residents ay may karapatan sa isang balanced and healthful ecology, no? So, in section 19 naman, sabi dito, the state shall develop a self-reliant and independent national economy effectively controlled by Filipinos. How is this related to our article later on national economy and patrimony? No? And take note, the article on national economy and patrimony has been asked several times in the Forestry Board exam. So dapat din natin siyang aralin. This is related to the article on national economy and patrimony in the sense that Section 19 serves as a guide for interpreting the provisions in that article. Now, any doubt, kung meron mang hindi malinaw o merong pagdududa kung paano i-interpret ang mga provision ng Article 12 on National Economy and Patrimony, any doubt must be resolved in favor of self-reliance and independence in favor of Filipinos. Dapat Pilipino ang mauuna. Okay? And last section under Article 2, the state shall maintain honesty and integrity in the public service and take positive and effective measures against graft and corruption. Okay? Next, we will now go to Article 10, local government. Under Article 10 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, it provides for provisions governing local governments. In Section 3 of Article 10, it says, Congress shall enact a local government code. And in fact, it did, no? Yung local government code of 1991, which shall provide for a more responsive and accountable local government structure, instituted through a system of decentralization. So, magiging decentralized yung some of the functions and powers of the national government, ibibigay siya sa mga local government units. But it will include effective mechanism of recall, initiative, and referendum, allocate among different local government units their powers, responsibilities, and resources, and at the same time, provide for the qualifications, election, appointment, and removal, term, salaries, powers and functions and duties of local officials, and all other matters relating to the organization and operation of local units. In the Philippines, ano-ano ba yung mga example ng local government units natin? So we have the province, we have the cities or municipalities, and we have the barangays. In our locality, ang province natin ay ang province of Aurora. And Ascot, the main campus, is located in the municipality of Baler. So as you know, ang probinsya ng Aurora or the province of Aurora is headed by a governor, whereas the municipality of Baler is headed by its mayor. So, bawat local government unit may kanya-kanyang structure. Bawat local government unit mayroong powers and responsibilities. So, bawat local government unit is empowered under Article 10 of the Constitution in that sense. Right? So, in Section 4, kahit naman nag-devolve na yung powers, no, several functions and powers to the local government units, it is nonetheless stated that the President of the Philippines shall exercise general supervision over local governments. Kaya nga meron tayong tinatawag na Department of Interior and Local Government. No? Provinces with respect to component cities and municipalities, and cities and municipalities with respect to component barangays shall ensure that the acts of their component units are within the scope of their prescribed powers and functions. How is this done? So sabi dito, ang province, siya ang may power over component cities and municipalities. And then the component cities and municipalities will have power over the component barangays. This is also the reason bakit yung mga ordinansa na dinedevelop ng lower LGU ay automatically nire-review ng higher LGU. So let's say gumawa ang sangguniang bayan ng Baler ng isang ordinansa, ire-review ito ng sangguniang panlalawigan because they review, no, the higher LGU will review the lower LGU's actions and ensure that the actions of the lower LGUs are within the scope of their prescribed powers and functions. In Section 5, it talks about the fiscal autonomy of local government units. What does that mean? Each local government unit shall have the power to create its own source of revenues. Ang bawat LGU pwedeng mag-levy or magpataw ng taxes, fees, and charges subject to such guidelines and limitations as the Congress may provide. No? Kaya nga, di ba, nagbabayad tayo ng local taxes in the form of securing mayor's permit. Nagbabayad din tayo ng amilyar sa lupa in the form of real property taxes. At itong mga binabayad natin na buwis sa LGU, ang LGU ang may karapatan na gamitin ito. Okay? And then in the next section, we talk about the internal revenue allotment. So sabi dito, local government units shall have a just share as determined by law in the national taxes which shall be automatically released to them. So hindi na applicable itong term na internal revenue allotment because we are now using the term share in national taxes which should be automatically released to the LGUs. Meaning, sa mga buwis na nakokolekta ng BIR, ng customs, and some other government agencies, mayroon ding share ang mga LGU. Okay? In Section 7, it talks about the entitlement of local government units to an equitable share in the utilization and development of the national wealth within their respective areas in the manner provided by law, including sharing the same with the inhabitants by way of direct benefits. Okay? Ang susunod na section or article na i-discuss natin would be Article 12 on national economy and patrimony. For purposes of forestry laws, siguro ito na yung pinakamahalaga. Because like what I have mentioned earlier, nababanggit or lumalabas ito sa board exam. Okay? So, in this sense, when we talk of national economy and patrimony, what do we mean? Okay? Sabi natin, what is the goal of the national economy? The goal of the national economy would be a more equitable distribution of opportunities, income, and wealth. There should be a sustained increase in the amount of goods and services produced by the nation for the benefit of the people and an expanding productivity as the key to raising the quality of life for all. So what is mandated here? Yung nakikita nyo sa inyong screen, yan ang mandate. Yan ang mga mandato under national economy and patrimony. If we want to summarize this further, okay, what are the threefold goal? Ano ba yung mga layunin ng national economy. Number one would be a more equitable distribution of wealth. No? So kung maganda kung sabay-sabay tayong aangat at sabay-sabay tayong aahon sa hirap, di ba? Kumbaga, there is a more equitable distribution of wealth. Number two, there is an increase of wealth for the benefit of the people. And number three is increased productivity. Okay? So, another paragraph under section 1 states that the state shall promote industrialization and full employment based on sound agricultural development and agrarian reform. Industries that make full and efficient use of human and natural resources, which are competitive in both domestic and foreign markets. However, ito yung mahalagang part, na kagaya ng sinabi natin kanina, the state shall protect Filipino enterprises against unfair foreign competition and trade practices. So anong ibig sabihin ng unfair foreign competition and trade practices na ito? Hindi naman ibig sabihin na ililimit na yung anything that is harmful to Philippine enterprises. However, now the intention is not really to protect local inefficiency, nor is it the intention to protect local industries from foreign competition at the expense of the consuming public. So, ibig sabihin nito, in the pursuit of all these goals, all sectors of the economy and all regions of the country shall be given optimum opportunity to develop. Let's say, hindi lang puro sa mga cities ibibigay yung opportunity to develop, but also to the countryside. Sa mga probinsya, nabibigyan din ng chance na ma-develop. Private enterprises, including corporations, cooperatives, and similar collective organizations, shall be encouraged to broaden the base of their ownership. Okay? In particular, to the environment, no? Particularly in relation to the environment, isa sa pinakamahalagang provision ng Constitution is Section 2 or what we call the Regalian Doctrine. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng Regalian Doctrine? Ito ay nasasaad sa Section 2 which states all lands of public domain, no? All lands of public domain, waters, minerals, coal, petroleum, and other mineral oils. Ano pa? All forces of potential energy. So, ano yung mga forces of potential energy? No? Solar, di ba? Sa mga hydro plants natin, yan yung mga potential sources of energy. So, mga coal, petroleum, di ba? Fisheries, eto na. Forests or timber, wildlife, flora and fauna, and other natural resources. Anong sabi sa Regalian Doctrine? These are all owned by the state. Ang state ng Pilipinas ang may-ari ng lahat ng mineral or lahat ng natural resources. Except agricultural lands. Except agricultural lands, all other natural resources shall not be alienated. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng ibenta ng government ang mga kalupaan na hindi agricultural lands. Agricultural lands lang ang pwedeng ibenta. Okay? So that is what the Regalian Doctrine says. Aside from this one, the state shall also protect the nation's marine wealth in its archipelagic waters, territorial sea, and exclusive economic zone, and reserve its use and enjoyment exclusively to Filipino citizens. Filipino citizens lamang ang mag-e-enjoy ng marine wealth ng Pilipinas. Alright? So, balik lang tayo sa Regalian Doctrine. Anong ibig sabihin ng Regalian Doctrine? Ibig sabihin, lahat ng lands of public domain na hindi clearly nagbe-belong or na pinapagmay-ari ng isang tao or ng private individual, the presumption is that it is owned by the state. So ang buong Pilipinas, kung hindi siya owned by another individual being, it is presumed to belong to the state. No? What is the consequence of the Regalian Doctrine in that sense? Any person claiming ownership of a portion of public domain must be able to show title from the state. Kung wala kang titulo galing sa gobyerno, that is considered as owned by the state. Ang government ang nagmamay-ari niyan. So again, kagaya sa natin kanina, hindi pwedeng ibenta ng state ang hindi agricultural land. But we have to also know, ano ba ang iba't ibang klase ng mga kalupaan na pwedeng makita sa Pilipinas. So under Section 3, lands of public domain are classified into agricultural, forest or timber, mineral lands, and national parks, no? Agricultural lands of the public domain may further be classified by law, so in Congress, according to the uses to which they may be devoted. So again, inulit din dito sa Section 3, ang fact na alienable lands of public domain shall be limited only to agricultural lands. Okay? So when we talk of the different classifications of lands under public domain, we have to know sino ba ang nagka-classify ng mga lands to begin with. The classification of public lands is an exclusive prerogative of the executive department of the government. Diba? As we have learned earlier, may tatlong branches ng government: executive, legislative, and judiciary. So it is the function of the executive department to classify the lands. So at the same time, kung halimbawa na-classify na, sino lang ang may power to change the classification of public lands? The classification of public lands is the exclusive prerogative of the president. No? Does this mean na kapag nagbago ang landscape ng isang lupain, automatic or hindi automatic ang pagbabago ng classification? Like for example, if an area is classified as forest land at pinutol natin lahat ng kahoy doon sa lupa na yon, does that mean that that land ceases to be forest land? The answer is no. No? Just because the nature of the land changes, it doesn't mean that the classification of the lands change as well. A positive act of the executive, meaning kailangan talagang magkaroon ng declaration or action ang executive bago mabago yung classification ng lupa. Pwede rin bang magkaroon ng mixed classification ang isang lupa? Let's say partly mineral land, partly agricultural land. Ayon sa rules, hindi pwede, no? The Supreme Court has ruled in the case of Republic versus Court of Appeals, a 1988 case, that lands cannot have a mixed classification. Okay? The classification must be categorical at dapat defined, no? Malinaw kung ano ang classification ng lupa. Either completely mineral siya or completely agricultural. Hindi pwedeng ate. Okay? Question. How about mangrove swamps? O, ayan, inaaral din natin sa forestry yung mangrove swamps. So, ano ang classification ng mangrove swamps? Ito ba ay agricultural or forest land? In the case of Director of Forestry versus Villarreal, a 1989 case, according to the Supreme Court, the classification by the Administrative Code of Manglares, or what we call mangrove swamps, as forest lands has not been changed. So, ang mangrove swamps is still forest land. Kung forest land, hindi pwedeng i-alienate. Remember, only agricultural lands can be alienated by the government. This means, kung mag-fall under yung lupa sa forest and timberland, mineral land, national parks, hindi siya pwedeng ibenta. Hindi siya pwedeng maging pagmamayari ng private individuals. It's only the government who has the right to own forest and timber, mineral, and national parks. Okay? Given this, okay, so ito yung mga, we are done with the Constitution. So ito yung magiging basis ng mga batas na ipinasa ng Congress, which are forestry related. So we will now go to an overview of some of the forestry related laws that we will take up this semester. So of course, we will study the revised forestry code, and if you look at the slide before you, you would know that the Forestry Code or the original PD 705 has undergone several amendments. Una dyan yung PD 1559. So this is the revised Forestry Code of the Philippines. This expanded the participation of the private sector in forest management. Okay? This also includes provisions regarding rationalization of the wood industry. And then, next came EO 277, which amended the revised Forestry Code. So ngayon, nagkaroon na ito ng mga kaparusahan para sa possession ng timber and other forest products without legal documents. At the same time, nagbibigay din siya ng pabuya sa mga informer. And then, this was again subsequently amended o binago ulit ito ng Republic Act 7161. So may mga inintroduce na mga pagbabago itong Republic Act na ito to the revised forestry code. Other forestry laws that we will study this semester aside from the revised forestry code, and also by observation, these are some of the laws that usually appear or are asked in the forestry board exam. So we have the Republic Act 11038, or the expanded National Integrated Protected Area System or NIPAS Act of 2018. We also have CA 141 or the Public Land Act, and we also have PD 1529, the Property Registration Decree. Paano ba magpatitulo ng lupa or ano-ano ba ang mga pwedeng gawin sa titulo ng lupa? Then we also have PD 9175, the Chainsaw Act of 2002. Now, in relation to the forestry profession, bakit nyo ba kailangan mag-board exam para maging licensed forester? We have Republic Act 10690 or the Forestry Profession Law of 2015. Also, in relation to that, we will touch on the Forester's Code of Ethics. We will study that. Other things that we will study in relation to environment. Now, PD 1151 and PD 1152 on the Philippine Environmental Policy and the Philippine Environment Code. No? We will also study PD 1586 or the EIS, na EISS, establishing an environmental impact statement. So, kailangan merong environmental impact statement ang ating mga project na makakaapekto sa ating environment. We'll also study PD 984, Pollution Control Law, Republic Act 6969, or talk about toxic substances and hazardous wastes. We will also study some Philippine mining laws, konti lang. Okay. And then we'll also study Republic Act 8749, Clean Air Act of 1999, and PD 1067, the Water Code of the Philippines. Okay, so ayan yung ating magiging iba-iba pang module for the rest of the semester. Okay, some reference that we use in this video lecture would be the book of Father Bernas, the 1987 Philippine Constitution, a comprehensive reviewer, and the book of De Leon and De Leon Jr., the textbook on Philippine Constitution. So thank you very much, guys, for listening, and good luck with your quiz. Now, study hard. Thank you.